Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about climate. Last year, Alaska was the global warming canary in the coal mine. Experts said Alaska was burning up, the sea ice was gone, and it was all your fault. They said Alaska's sea ice completely melted for the first time in recorded history. Apparently, recorded history must be pretty short, because this map of sea ice was in National Geographic in 1971. This map showed the edge of the multi-year ice, meaning ice which had survived at least one summer, and you can see there was no ice off the coast of Alaska. So apparently recorded history began sometime after 1971. Actually, the sea ice melts off the coast of Alaska every summer, but there's no reason to let facts or reality get in the way of historical journalism. And in 1922, the explorer Stephenson said that the ice between the North Pole and Alaska was thin and rotten. That implies that the ice was first-year ice and probably melted that summer. So it seems pretty likely that the coast of Alaska has been becoming ice-free for at least a century. And it also appears that experts who claim that this used to be very thick multi-year ice had no idea what they were talking about. We also know that the entire Arctic Ocean was probably ice-free sometimes between 6,000 and 7,000 years ago. That was around the time when Stonehenge was built. This was likely caused by Druid SUVs, but fortunately the polar bears survived the ice-free Arctic and are still with us today. Now let's look at a satellite photo of the Beaufort Sea north of Alaska from last summer. North is this direction. These are clouds up here, and this is ice. You can see that there was very little ice in the Beaufort Sea last summer, and the ice that was there was melting pretty rapidly. Now, here's the same photograph from the same date this summer. You can see that there's lots of ice in the Beaufort Sea. It's pretty close to the coast of Alaska, and it's not really showing any signs of melting. Apparently, carbon dioxide just isn't getting the job done melting the ice in Alaska this summer. And this is the really bad news for climate alarmists. It's the temperature forecast till the middle of August. The forecast is for lots of cold air over the Beaufort Sea. These blue colors mean they're below freezing. It's going to be pretty difficult to melt the ice with temperatures below freezing. Now let's look at the current sea ice extent in the Arctic. You can see that there's a large area of open water off the coast of Siberia. Southerly winds in Siberia blew the ice offshore and blew it over towards the Alaska side. But the Earth is round, and when the wind crosses the North Pole, they become cold northerly winds. That's largely why there's been very little melting in the Beaufort Sea this summer. Because of this, climate alarmists have moved their clown show from Alaska last summer to Siberia this summer. Now let's look at the forecast again for a minute. Remember that it's predicting lots of cold air over the Beaufort Sea. So there's probably not going to be a lot of melting over the next few weeks, and then after that, summer's going to wind down pretty quickly. This map shows last summer's minimum ice extent from the middle of September. In order to reach last summer's minimum, a lot of ice is going to have to melt. This is the current extent, and this is last year. Current, last year. All of the green shown in this map is going to have to melt this summer in order to reach last year's minimum. That's going to be difficult to do if the weather forecast is correct and this area of green remains below or near freezing. Forecasts can change and this ice may end up melting, but the prospects don't look particularly good for climate alarmists right now. This is the sea ice graph from the Danish Meteorological Institute, and the red line is this year's extent. The extent has been low this summer because of the southerly winds which blew the ice offshore from Siberia. But with all the cold air in the Beaufort Sea, the melt is likely to slow down, and the shape of the graph will probably look something more like this. Al Gore predicted an ice-free Arctic in 2014, but it looks like he's probably going to have to wait for yet another summer. Toto is happy to chase global warming hysteria all over the world. Last year he was chasing it in Alaska, and this year he's chasing it in Siberia. You can visit Toto on the web at realclimatescience.com. He's been pulling back the curtain on junk science and propaganda for a long time.